Greetings and welcome to Bobby and Ryan's Film Show. I am Bobby.
And I'm Ryan.
And this past week there was a big to-do going on out there in Hollywood, as they say. The 87th Academy Awards, 87 years celebrating the cinema. So, Ryan, what were your thoughts and takeaways so far with the show this year? I'll be honest, I didn't watch it.
I did.
It's the first time since I was 8 that I didn't.
I saw it, and it was the Oscars,
Right.
for better or for worse. It's not too many surprises. A couple little things that I didn't think would win. Or, the show itself was crap as always. It was a
Yeah,
joke.
that's why I can't do it with the show anymore. It just doesn't work for me.
Half of the drama movies that were nominated were funnier than the actual show.
Right.
I don't think it's supposed to happen that way. But when I laugh more at The Theory of Everything than I do at Neil Patrick Harris, something's wrong.
The only thing about Neil Patrick Harris in 2014 movies is that he got his throat slit in fucking Gone Girl.
Yeah, and they
By the way,
spoiled that
we're gonna
on the show, too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be spoiling a lot, too, on here. So sorry to...
They
not
spoiled it
warn
in
you
the
ahead.
first 5 minutes.
Did they really?
So I'm glad I saw Gone Girl.
Yeah. Fuck. It was like, I remember in the 2008 show, when they were, I don't know what category it was for, but they were pulling clips from, I remember No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, and the clips were the ending scenes with like Javier Bardem getting hit by the car, and with There Will Be Blood, it's when Daniel Day-Lewis is chasing Paul Dano with the bowling balls. Like, why would you show that stuff on the... Like, those movies had just recently come out, too, at the end of the year. Like, people probably haven't seen them.
Yeah, they did pretty much the same thing. Not spoiling anything to a great extent, but there were points where I saw certain movies and I'm thinking, why are they using this clip? They didn't really think very long or hard about this.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're way past the point of spoilers here.
Yeah.
I think.
Spoilers for every movie at the 87th Annual Academy Awards.
Yeah, or in existence.
Yes. Yeah, why not?
Fuck. Never started that. Now we're good to go on that.
All right.
Timer. But. So with Best Picture, what were our nominees?
Whiplash, The Theory of Everything, Selma, The Imitation Game, Grand Budapest Hotel, Boyhood, American Sniper, and Birdman.
Or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Yes.
Right? Which took the big prize this year, which I guess every year it seems they make it into like this boxing match where it's usually 2 movies, unless there's a legit front runner, like the year the artist won. It was no question.
Yeah, or The Return of the King,
Right.
Titanic, things like that.
But this year the big matchup was between Birdman and Boyhood for sure.
Yeah.
And to be honest, not to put my own like personal preference in there, but I really thought Boyhood was going to take it this year.
I didn't see Boyhood yet.
You've not seen Boyhood.
I did pick Boyhood to win. Just didn't think Birdman would do it, but it did. And I'm not really the biggest Birdman fan.
Yeah, I wasn't over the moon about it. I mean, it was one of my favorite films of the year, and I was really anticipating it. And Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, I think that's how you say his name. I mean, his movies have never really done it for me. The way
I liked
people seem to be affected by his work.
I like 21 Grams, but I haven't seen that in probably 8 years.
Yeah.
Maurice Peros was...
Oh my god. His movies make me like, I feel like really gross at the end of them, and I just like need to take a shower, and the Maurice Peros with the whatever the dog's name was, that fucking lady wanted.
Yeah, that's another movie I haven't seen in forever. And I really don't have like a strong desire to go back and watch it again either. Just didn't leave a good first impression. I think Birdman's some of his better work, definitely.
It's probably my favorite movie he's ever made.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Beautiful.
I didn't see that
I
either.
haven't seen that yet.
I think he made something else after that too. But
No, I don't think he did. I think it was just that to Birdman. Because that was fairly recent. But the thing about Birdman, this is interesting. When I saw that in the theater, there was a giant spider or tarantula or something on the screen crawling up through the whole movie, and it was infuriating. And
wow.
It took me out of it. And you think I would have left, but it was like, this is the only night I can come and see this movie. I'm stuck with this. So it's like, I get lucky and you get the kind of the darker scenes or would blend in with a costume and you wouldn't notice it. But then when you get like a really great moment in the film, like when Emma Stone is going off on him.
That was probably my favorite point in the movie.
Yeah.
And her rooftop scenes too with Edward Norton were pretty good.
Right.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, it's an overall well-made film, and it's, you know, shoulders above a lot of shit that's out there. But I just was it really the best picture of the year? No. Was it one of the best pictures? For sure. And
yeah, a worse movie could have won.
Yeah, it could have given it to Selma. They
Selma
could have given
I
it
didn't
to
see
Whiplash. But another big thing with Birdman is the cinematography in it, which is the highlight of what everyone's talking about with that film, other than probably Michael Keaton's performance, which of the nominees, I mean, the fact that he didn't win was very upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, the Academy voters typically go for actors playing real people, and of the 5 nominations, 4 of them were actors portraying real people.
Yeah,
Michael Keaton was the only one that wasn't.
Mm-hmm. I did before the Oscars this year. I remember I tallied it, and it was like, I think in the last, since 2000, it was like 8 women and 8 men have won for playing real people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I don't even know if I calculated how many there were that actually were nominated for playing real people.
Yeah, I think of this decade so far, 75% of the winners were actors playing real people.
Yeah.
For Best Actor, I'm not sure about actress or not.
I can't remember the last Best Actress to win for playing a real. Probably would have been Meryl Streep for The Iron Lady.
She's still Alice, based on a true story?
I don't think so. That was based on a book. I don't think it was a true story, though.
I don't know. I don't think... usually, a lot of the Best Actress films aren't really popular. They really go for movies that you would probably never even hear of if it wasn't for the nomination.
Right. Blue Jasmine, I mean, other than being a Woody Allen movie and having Cate Blanchett, I mean, who really is talking about that film? It wasn't one of his... It wasn't like a greater Woody Allen film. It just has a really strong performance at its center. That won last year. But to go back to Birdman, one thing I want to stress that I loved about it was the soundtrack in it, with that drum rolling through the whole thing, really clipping along.
It's like they used the Whiplash soundtrack.
Yeah, Birdman had the soundtrack Whiplash should have had.
I think of the nominees for Best Picture, Whiplash was definitely my favorite.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I couldn't do. J.K. Simmons he's good in it, but it was a little too over the top for me. Like,
yeah, I could see that. I kind of think that's kind of what made it good, though.
Right.
That's not the kind of role that you have to be subtle about.
Yeah.
You can't be the domineering teacher. You really have to hit that pretty hard.
Yeah. The ending took me out of it too. It became like a fantasy film. It's really goofy when that final scene, but
I was strangely like almost confused by the ending of that movie.
Really?
Because it ended and then that was it. The credits rolling, and I thought, wait, there has to be more. They left at like a really weird point. The more I thought about it, though, the more it kind of made sense. There really wasn't anything else to dwell on.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you just have to get out.
The whole point or not even, the whole moment with the car accident, like he should be dead. Like, why is he? But I guess that's what they're trying to get through. Is that nothing's stopping him from doing what he's got to do. But Whiplash just it didn't do it for me, and the fact that it's just, I don't even know where to go with Whiplash.
Whiplash is of the nominees I've seen most of them. I think there's 2 or 3 that I didn't see. Whiplash is the one that I want to see again the most.
Really?
Yeah. The other movies were, well made. The Theory of Everything.
Theory of Everything I actually liked a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Me too. Yeah, that was, it's like a very well-made movie, top to bottom. Every element of that movie is really good. The acting, the cinematography is fantastic. I enjoyed the music quite a bit. It's just not a story that I feel like I have to go out and get on Blu-ray like the day it comes out. Once you kind of know the story, then there's...
Once was enough.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of nuance to this. You're not going to get a whole lot more on a second viewing that you didn't really get on the first.
I thought Felicity Jones was actually better in that film than Eddie Redmayne.
It felt more like her movie.
Yeah.
Because she was the one actually dealing with this on the outside.
Yeah.
Redmayne, Stephen Hawking, he was the one afflicted by the condition, but other than that, he didn't really do anything outside it. Like, he kind of went and, tried to be a scientist still, but there's... The only conflict for him was him having this disease.
Yeah.
But Felicity Jones, her character, had to deal with it like in every part of her life.
It was much more complex.
Yeah.
Dealing with that whole situation, I felt at least.
I agree.
I really, really was taken by the ending of that film. Like, I was such a sucker for the way when he says to her, like, "Look at everything we've made," and then they reverse the whole movie, like time going back onto itself to the beginning of like everything.
Yeah.
And it was just like such a sucker for that. And then I know it's one of those things where if I watch it out of context of the whole film, like it's probably like really cheesy and sappy, but I was totally taken by that.
Yeah, they really pulled that off.
But what were your thoughts on Selma, which you haven't seen yet?
I didn't see that.
What about the controversy surrounding that?
I don't know. I can't really say much about it at this point. I do want to see it, though. I heard good things. I heard some not good things, too, but...
Right. It was... I think I told you before that I could have pressed play, got up, walked around my house, gone somewhere, come back when the credits started, and I wouldn't have missed anything, and I could have told you exactly what happened in the film. It is no Malcolm X for sure. And I don't even know how to pronounce the guy's last name, David Oyelowo or Oyelowo, played Martin Luther King.
I didn't practice that.
Yeah, yes, I could do Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think that's 12 years. Him I could say, but this actor, he was again an actor playing a real person. That, how much preparation is he really doing other than imitating the character? I mean, this isn't that long ago. And he was terrific as Martin Luther King, but it's just the movie didn't give me anything that I didn't already know. It didn't really affect me the way like a 12 Years a Slave did or Malcolm X. And
I think 12 Years a Slave is one of the best movies made in the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. There was I remember Roger Ebert said about like Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close when that came out, that it's hard to, I think, let me look up the review real quick. He was saying about like to affect the way people are affected by certain events, like 9/11. Like you can't like make catharsis come from an event like that through film. And he was trying. I think he was like relating it to even with like the Holocaust and Schindler's List. And I've always felt that way about slavery. Like, I just don't understand that world. I don't know anything. Like, I don't know that experience other than just learning about it. But in 12 Years a Slave, that's what made me, I just don't understand why human beings are acting like this. And that's what,
right? You watch it in a modern context, and it just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. It just, that world just doesn't make sense to me. I'm looking up Ebert here, what he said about it. But Selma just didn't do it for me. If people liked it, more power to them. But
maybe it was just unfortunate that 12 Years won the Oscar last year, the year before, and now you're trying to tell a very similar story.
Right.
The same but different, different in many ways.
Yeah.
And Selma, I expected that. Especially since it got the Best Picture nomination, it didn't get anything for acting. It didn't get directing. The director was just ignored.
Even with acting, if you're going to give the Oscar to Eddie Redmayne, I mean, this actor in Selma, he's just as worthy for playing a real person and embodying the role, as they say. But in his 2.5-star review of Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, Roger Ebert said, "No movie has ever been able to provide a catharsis for the Holocaust, and I suspect none will ever be able to provide one for 9/11. He says, such subjects overwhelm art." That's how I feel with this situation, like with slavery and just racism in general. It's like something I don't really understand. I don't know a lot about.
Yeah,
12 Years a Slave. It's like, I don't understand this.
It's one thing to educate people about what happened. It's a different thing to make them feel a certain way.
Right. Like, it's just like 12 Years a Slave upset me in a way that, like, I think you should be upset.
That's a movie that, if you didn't see it in the theater with other people, then you didn't really see the movie. Because the theater experience is just so strong and such an important part of that movie because...
For how well it's made, too. I mean, Steve McQueen is just... There's a certain style that it plays so well in a theater.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas Selma, you could watch that on a crappy TV.
Yeah, Steve McQueen has a very old school, like, Stanley Kubrick style where every shot has to be framed a certain way and perfect and seen on a huge screen. You
figure... That motherfucker's going to be winning more Academy Awards down the line. I don't know how he didn't get Best Director for that.
Gravity won that.
Yeah, Gravity.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure I agree with that, but...
I didn't either.
Steve McQueen's one of my favorite current filmmakers.
Yeah, he's making a lot of noise right now.
It was interesting because I saw his movies in the order that they were released. I saw Hunger first.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I think I saw it on Netflix when it was still on there. But that's the kind of movie where you watch it and you know that this is like an artist is making this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't made a movie before.
Right.
And there are a lot of, I don't want to say problems with the movie, but he needs to like reel it in and like condense things. And I mean, for example, we don't need like a 4-minute shot of a guy mopping a hallway from beginning to end. That's not necessary. I think Shame.
Well, I mean, he's really trying to convey.
Yeah, Shame. I think did a much better job of getting rid of the excess and just really narrowing it down. And then 12 Years a Slave was honed to perfection, basically.
Right. I think Hunger is the stronger film between that and Shame. Which Shame, I didn't care for all that much when it first came out, and I just watched it again recently. I think I've liked it a lot more. Like, it's not a bad film by any means. It's just that Shame to me is a comedy. I laugh at that fucking movie when I watch it. But I like it. I liked it a lot more second time around, realizing like just the idea of the body and how you can't really control this inborn nature.
Yeah,
And
Seamus.
like, what a tragedy it is for this poor guy. But at the same time, it's just littered with these weird moments, like when he walks out of his apartment at the beginning, and just the way Michael Fassbender says hi to this woman, and he like looks back, checking her out. And it's just like it's a comedy to me.
Yeah, it's a hard movie to really buy into unless that's the kind of movie that you're sitting down to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just show somebody, hey, you got to check out this movie Shame. You're going to love it, and they'll probably not love it at all.
Yeah.
Unless they're very open to art films, but most people aren't.
Right. What was that? I don't know who did it, but it was somebody was dissecting the opening shot of that movie.
Oh, Must See Films.
Is it Must See Films?
Yeah.
That's a really good interpretation of that shot. It's very good. Very well shot film too. But even that scene when he's on the train in the beginning, where he's having that like stare back and forth with that woman, like it's a little too over the top for me. But what did you think of Imitation Game?
I like that way more than I expected to. Great movie. It's I want to say it's like the second cousin of The Theory of Everything, because they're very similar in many ways, very different, very well made.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like top to bottom, everything about the movie's really good. I love the music in that. That movie had great music.
Nice little piano loop soundtrack.
Yeah. The cast was perfect.
Right.
I thought Cumberbatch never really struck me as like one of the top actors. I didn't see Sherlock. I didn't see a lot of his work. I only saw some of his.
He's very good, but he kind of has like that cadence that he plays with, like I just talk really fast, and this is what I'm very intimidating when I speak.
But in this movie, he really impressed me. This is easily his best work that I've seen.
I really like him, Sherlock. I think that's so far his real home run there, but he hasn't done that much in terms of big roles.
Yeah, he played in Star Trek, but you're not going to win awards for that.
Yeah.
I think his best work's definitely ahead of him, though.
I'm interested to see what he's going to do with Doctor Strange for sure.
My
name is Khan.
He looks like he could play Doctor Strange.
Yeah. It'd be cool to see fucking Joaquin Phoenix play Doctor Strange. But the Imitation Game, what I found difficult about it was that the fact that it was nominated for Best Director, and with directing, it's like producing. It's like no two directors are the same. It's like, what does a director really do? But at least with directing, you can always say, well, they work with the actors and getting the performance out of them. And Cumberbatch is just kind of being Cumberbatch in that film. Maybe just turned up a little more. But everybody else in it, like Keira Knightley, it's just I'm not seeing her do anything special that she hasn't done before.
She's played similar roles in the past, and she's always been good at them. But like you said, she's not going above and beyond.
No.
For The Imitation.
She was nominated for that too, right?
Yeah.
I don't have that list in front of me.
Yeah.
But even Charles Dance, the fucking guy from Game of Thrones, it's like he showed up on set and they said, whatever you do on Game of Thrones, just do that here.
Yeah. Change your costume, that's it. Just keep doing all the rest.
Yeah, he's just that really intense old guy that nobody wants to fuck with. And Mark Strong, I think he played the same character that he played in Kingsman that I just saw. But The Imitation Game is just one of those movies that's going to play on TV back and forth with Forrest Gump and The Shawshank Redemption. Again, not necessarily that's a bad thing.
I think one of the strongest points of that movie was the momentum that they were building up as he's trying to get this machine to work and everything that's working against him. And then certain things happen and then other things happen. The movie just has a great pace to it.
Right.
And I think they did it better in The Imitation Game than some of the other nominees. Like American Sniper, I thought was longer than it actually was. The Theory of Everything kind of felt long at times,
Right.
but again, it's not like a suspense movie in the same way as The Imitation Game is.
What did you what were your overall thoughts on American Sniper? I thought that was one of the better Clint Eastwood films to come along in quite some time. I don't think he's made a good film since Letters from Iwo Jima.
I didn't even see that one. I liked.
He's an interesting in terms of being like a film director. Like he's always been like that. He'll make something that's a really, really terrific, shoulders above everything else film, and then like he'll make another movie like the same year that's just god awful. And that's how Letters from Iwo Jima and Flags of Our Fathers were. I thought like one was really good and the other one was just awful.
What was that other one he did? Jersey Boys.
Yeah, Jersey Boys was what came out in the summer, and that didn't. I don't think that was.
I actually forgot that was a movie.
All right.
American Sniper was good. It was not amazing,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not terrible.
Really?
I think it is some of his better work, but I really didn't fall in love with anything that he's done in the past 10 years.
Yeah, that's really how I feel with American Sniper. It wasn't. It didn't. I don't even know if it should have been nominated for Best Picture. To be honest with you, Bradley Cooper is the best part of that movie.
Definitely,
I mean, he was terrific.
yeah.
In there.
And he is playing a real guy, but even if you're unfamiliar with the actual person he's portraying, you don't have to be
Mm-hmm.
in order to appreciate his performance. And that's, I think, one of the strengths of it. Like, he really made a character.
Sienna Miller is really good in that too.
Yeah,
Hopefully she'll be doing
she just
more.
came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
She was in G.I. Joe, a couple smaller movies. I think
Right.
one of Matthew Vaughn's earlier. Oh, was she in
She's
Layer
a-
Cake?
She's in Stardust too, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in a long time either, but she kind of fell off the radar for a while and then just came back
Mm-hmm.
strong.
Hopefully she'll be doing more.
Yeah, I like her.
And you haven't seen Grand Budapest Hotel
Nope.
either. That and Boyhood were the two you didn't see.
And Selma.
Oh, and Selma, yeah. Fuck, I even forget like that's how off my radar Selma was. We talked about it. I don't even know what you said about it.
Yeah, Grand Budapest Hotel. I was not in a hurry to see it. I'm just not really a fan of Wes Anderson's style.
Mm-hmm. It's an acquired taste.
Yeah, and he has that kind of style where if you're not into that, then you're probably not going to like too many of his movies.
Right.
Kind of the same way with Tim Burton, but to a lesser
Yeah.
extent.
Yeah, it's a very good comparison. He is that. It's I always say watch Royal Tenenbaums. If you don't like that, you're not gonna like anything he's done. But when I first saw Grand Budapest Hotel, I was thinking, yeah, this is minor work compared to a lot of his earlier stuff. But I just watched it again recently, and my God, is it not only roaring funny, but it really is a well-made film in terms of. I mean, it's got a really interesting plot going on in it.
I'm actually not.
I think it
all that-
might be my favorite film he's made, other than Royal Tenenbaums. Even better than Moonrise Kingdom, which was another modern classic.
I'm not even really familiar with the plot of that movie. I just know that there's a
Grand
hotel.
Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
Ray finds this place, this really good concierge at this hotel in between World War I and World War II, and he has these affairs with these rich women who come to live there, and one of them dies and leaves him this really expensive painting, and the family of this rich lady is kind of trying to get the painting away from him, and they send him to prison. He's got to break out, and it's about him and this relationship he has with the lobby boy, and it's really good.
Is that lobby boy the same guy that was in Whiplash?
I don't know. I
Because
don't think so.
when I watched the awards, I saw him sitting there, and I thought, "Hey, that's the assistant from Whiplash." Or not Whiplash. What am I talking about? Nightcrawler.
I don't think so.
Because it looks exactly like him.
Jake Gyllenhaal's buddy that was riding in the car with him?
Yeah.
I don't think he was in Nightcrawler. No.
I like Nightcrawler a lot, though.
I know. That's,
I would put that ahead
talk
of.
about anything that should have been nominated. Nightcrawler.
I'd put that far ahead of any actual Best Picture nominee.
Yeah. Tony Revolori plays young Zero in the movie The Lobby Boy. Grand Budapest Hotel. So that's all of the Best Picture nominees. Again, that ultimately it went to Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. If you could have given it to any of the nominees, what would you have given it to?
Best Picture?
Yeah.
Whiplash.
Really?
Yep.
I would have absolutely Boyhood 100%, which is hard to talk about since you haven't seen.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll change my pick after I see Boyhood. I do want to see it. I'm not avoiding it.
Yeah.
I like Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
But Boyhood looks like an interesting movie. It looks like something I would enjoy.
It's longer. You got to set aside time to watch it.
Yeah, it's about 3 hours, right?
Yeah. I mean, it just, that to me is a masterpiece of, like, that is like the best film to come along in quite some time. And I don't know if it's partly because I'm closer in age to the character in that movie, but like a lot of the things that he was experiencing growing up, like I had the exact same experience. So it worked for me. And Patricia Arquette and Ethan Hawke were just incredible as the parents in that film.
I think Ethan Hawke's the most underrated actor out there today.
He needs to be in a lot more stuff.
He deserves every award not given to Daniel Day-Lewis in 2008 because his performance in Before the Devil Knows You're Dead is unbelievable. I don't know how he wasn't nominated.
Yeah.
I don't know how he just... That whole movie just fell under the radar.
It really did. That was, Sidney
Lumet's last movie.
Sidney Lumet, yeah. It's a good Philip Seymour Hoffman performance, too.
Yeah, and there's a great... I think he's in 2 scenes, but Michael Shannon makes an appearance, too.
Oh, God.
And for as limited screen time as he has, he really makes a mark.
He does. It's another one we need to see a lot more of. Talking about Best Actor, something we haven't mentioned yet, Steve Carell and Foxcatcher. Did you see Foxcatcher? Yeah,
yes.
Foxcatcher.
Yeah. That was... I like that director's films. I think he also did...
De Capote.
Yeah, and
Moneyball. Bennett Miller.
Yeah.
He made this really interesting documentary in the 90s. I think it's called The Cruise, about this, I forget the guy's name, but he like runs these tour bus trips around New York and just talks about random things about New York. I forget the guy's name, but it's a documentary about this guy. It's very interesting to look at. And the character actually shows up in the Richard Linklater film Waking Life. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No.
It's a movie made with the rotoscope animation that he did in Scanner Darkly, and it was a much earlier film. And it's really just a series of people like ranting and being philosophical about certain things. And this character that is the subject of Bennett Miller's The Cruise is in Waking Life. But Steve Carell as John DuPont was...
unbelievable.
And especially for Steve Carell, you don't associate him with these kinds of roles. He's going like the Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, serious role route.
He really is. He totally pulled that off too, and everybody in that movie was amazing, especially Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, I think Channing Tatum, the fact that he didn't get nominated, I thought he was tremendous in that. I thought he was the best performance in that movie. Like, there's something very...
The whole movie
animal and ape-like about him.
Oh, yeah.
In a good way, though. Not like in an insulting kind of, like, big dumb wrestler way.
It's a subtle performance, and it's a very low-key movie. There's not a lot of action or even activity in the movie. Everything takes a long time to develop. But that kind of works in favor of the film's atmosphere.
Right.
But not in favor of... if you're trying to gain acclaim for your performance, it's because you really have to sit down and pay attention to it. It's not going to stand out in the way that Eddie Redmayne did, or Michael Keaton.
Fact, though, with Foxcatcher, I've had this conversation with a few people, but they're really, at least I can't think of what the motivation is for Steve Carell's character to kill Mark Ruffalo. At the end of that, it's never clear to me. I mean, I've heard people say, like, why he did it, but it's always different opinions as to why he did it. And I don't think it's...
Yeah, I don't know if it's
clear.
It's really concrete, but...
I gotta watch that again. I didn't see it.
The way I interpreted it was Steve Carell played... His character was very lonely. And he wanted people to like him. He wanted people to think he was great. And so he surrounds himself with all these great wrestlers and all these other great people. and when they start to go away from him, he kind of doesn't know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
and he just reached a point where he's like, well, I've had it.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be my friend, I'm going to kill you.
He sabotages Channing Tatum in that movie, which is interesting. He's building this guy to be this, hero of America. He's going to mold him in his own image, but then he just totally sabotages him at that dinner they go to when they're in the helicopter and they're doing the coke, and he's like, what does he say, philanthropist, philosopher?
Yeah, something
over
weird.
and over. So it's like, why doesn't make sense to me why he kills Mark Ruffalo in that movie, especially when he's kind of being self-destructive, and he's setting all these guys up to be these great things and then just destroying them on his own, which really shows how complicated the character is.
Oh yeah, and that's the kind of movie that I do want to see again.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Sienna Miller's in that too, as Mark Ruffalo's wife.
Yeah, you're
that
right.
was the other movie. I couldn't. What the hell else was she in?
I forgot about that. But that's a movie where you can watch that again and start to discover something new.
Mm-hmm.
And there's quite a lot going on below the surface of that movie, and I think that's very fascinating. It kind of really, and for me, it makes up for the lack of really intensity of the movie. It's more of like a simmer than a boil.
Yeah. Hopefully, I hope Bennett Miller makes a career out of just adapting true stories of these really complicated characters. But that's, out of 4 out of the 5 played real people. Fuck. What was going on in Best Actress? That would have been 1, 2... Only 2 in Best Actress that played real people. Best Actress this year, the great Julianne Moore winning for Still Alice, which I haven't seen yet. Have you?
No.
I'm sure she's very deserving of that award because she's one of my all-time favorites.
This is like the Martin Scorsese award. It's like, well, we didn't give you one yet, so here's this one. And I'm sure her performance is amazing, but she could legitimately be nominated and win for most of her work.
She deserves the career Meryl Streep has. That's
basically
how I feel about it. Like, she should be nominated for everything she does and win for everything she does.
Yeah.
But in my life, my favorite thing ever is that this is a giant cock from Boogie Nights. I love that.
Speaking of Boogie Nights, I think Best Picture should be given to Boogie Nights every year until someone makes a better movie.
Yeah, no argument here.
That is still the defending champion in my mind.
It didn't even get nominated for Best Picture. It only got Best Screenplay. That was the highest award that one got.
Yeah, which is
nomination, but it lost to Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, Good Will Hunting.
That's a very strong film,
kind of deserved it.
It lost to something good at least.
Yeah, I mean, you could really flip a coin at that point. Both films are great. Both films are written extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
But Boogie Nights is one of those movies you could just keep going back to.
Yep.
20 years old.
That scene when they're shooting the first porno they're shooting, with the lines of dialogue she's coming off with, like well, I'm trying to make a film, and my landlord's a real dick, and he's going to kick me out of my apartment. I don't know how much of that they ad-libbed and how much was actually written there in the script, but she's tremendous in that film.
Speaking of screenplay, I really expected the Grand Budapest Hotel to win for original screenplay, because that seems like the category that they like.
Mm-hmm.
Or the type of movie that they like for that category.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, leading up to it, I really thought Boyhood, again, or Birdman, because I'm just thinking they always kind of go, and whatever gets Best Picture is going to win something like Screenplay. And it was like, after Grand Budapest Hotel won the WGA award, then everybody's like, Grand Budapest Hotel is still a lock to win it. And I was like, it could be Birdman or Boyhood, don't. So I'm not the least bit shocked that Birdman won Best Screenplay either.
Yeah, and it's a very dialogue-heavy movie, which really the Academy tends to favor sometimes for screenplay awards, because I guess people still believe that dialogue's the only thing writers write.
I've always felt that Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor are the two awards where they the Academy tries to think outside of the box a little, or be too hip sometimes, because they always give Screenplay to the
more of a quirky independent kind of film, like Her last year.
Yeah.
Eternal Sunshine back in the day, Little Miss
Right.
Sunshine, Juno. The list just goes on.
They try to be mainstream hip, as they call it. But
I think it's Highway Robbery that Nightcrawler was the only nomination.
yeah, you could have easily have gotten Best Actor. Should have got Best Picture. 10 films could be nominated.
Director, cinematography.
Right. Absolutely cinematography. I gotta buy that on Blu-ray. See that again.
Yeah,
How much is that?
that's the kind of movie where
I will watch that over and over. And I had a conversation about that with this guy who was cutting my hair. I guess you would call him a barber or hairstylist. I don't know. But like,
why not?
fuck, it's like Snowpiercer. Like, that's the movie you can go anywhere and talk about with people.
Yeah.
Um,
Snowpiercer's my personal favorite movie of 2014. And I recommend it to everybody. And everybody that has seen it always comes back and says, that was great.
Yeah. I haven't heard anybody be disappointed with Snowpiercer. I can't believe Chris Evans was in that. Like, halfway through the movie, like, is that Chris Evans?
Yeah. Honestly, I did not know that was Tilda Swinton.
You didn't?
Until well into the movie.
Oh, wow.
I saw her name in the credits and I thought, who is that her?
Yeah.
No way.
I was really happy that I didn't know who was in it before I saw it, because it kind of keeps like the guy who's in charge of the train, like,
The reveal at the end.
Yeah, it was a mystery to me. I'm like, wow, thank God I didn't know the cast, because like that kind of kept me going too. It's like, who's it gonna be?
Yeah, that's a great movie to go into knowing nothing.
Yeah,
because you learn
Which
so
I
much
think,
along the way about the world that they really built.
As I've gotten older, I really think it's better to know absolutely nothing about a film before you go into it. Don't know the trailer, don't know any... Like, the movies that I've seen recently where I know nothing about it before I went and saw it, other than, like, here's this movie, people like it, and then go see it. Like, those are the ones that have really, really hit me hard. And Snowpiercer really was one of those. I just kind of ignored... Like, I knew people liked it, and it's like everybody's saying, see it. And when I didn't know anything about it. I didn't really even know the plot.
Yeah. All I watch anymore, I watch the teaser trailer, and then I watch the first full trailer, and nothing else.
Right.
Because there are way too many movies that I've seen where I kind of know what's going to happen in the third act because I saw a trailer.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way.
Another one, I think one recent example I could think of with that was the Tom Ford film, A Single Man. With Colin Firth. I didn't know anything about that movie before I saw it. It's
I still
such
don't.
a trip. That's a good one. You gotta see that. And watch it not knowing anything about it. It's a really, really good film. Going back to Best Actress, though, one thing I want to say, this movie that I loved and I wish it got more attention elsewhere was Wild, the Reese Witherspoon movie. I thought she was terrific in it. And it was the kind of movie, God, I wish I had made or I had told that story. It's somebody walking through the wilderness for a long time, and that's such a great... It made me kind of want to go and do that, walk that trail that she did for no reason other than go figure shit out.
Yeah, that's the kind of movie I could see myself enjoying quite a lot. And when I was watching the show, I saw Laura Dern was nominated for supporting actress. I didn't even know she was in it.
Yeah. No, she's really good. She plays her mother in it. She's not in it that much. It's interesting that they even nominated her, but it's nice that they acknowledged her for it. But Wild is what the movie Into the Wild tried to be, and I was so shut off by the film Into the Wild. I hated that character. It's not connecting with him. But Wild is the kind of film I recommend everybody go out and see. Read the book too. Fascinating story.
Another surprise was Gone Girl. Only got one nomination.
I thought that was going to be up for everything.
Yeah. Maybe like that and Nightcrawler. They were both very, very dark stories about bad people doing bad things.
Right.
And maybe that just turned a lot of people off.
Gone Girl is probably David Fincher's most recent film that I really liked. Dragon Tattoo, I didn't care for that. I didn't care for the original versions either. Social Network didn't really do it for me.
I honestly liked...
Best film since Zodiac, which I think is a masterpiece. I love Zodiac.
Gone Girl, I saw that movie twice, actually. I saw it once in theaters, and I walked out thinking, I'm never going to want to see this movie again.
Mm-hmm.
Then I ended up seeing it again, and I thought, yeah, now I know I don't have to see this movie again. That was the confirmation viewing. But it just turned me off so much.
Mm-hmm.
How I don't even want to go into it. I'll just sit here for 4 hours.
The guy reminded me a lot of North by Northwest there with the Neil Patrick Harris character and that house he was staying in. I don't know why it struck me. I thought, fuck, this is North by Northwest.
Yeah, I thought so too. That was a very unique production design too for that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the way it looked. I liked the way it was shot. The music was amazing.
Right.
Trent Reznor should score every movie.
Yes, he should.
Most recent Fincher movie I liked.
That's how I felt though with Social Networks. Like the music is my favorite part. I don't know how good of a. Is that a good thing?
I kind of felt that Gone Girl's soundtrack was almost too much like the Social Network and Dragon Tattoo. It didn't really stand out on its own and really create like a presence of its own.
That's not a bad thing for me though, because like with Alexandre Desplat, who won this year, or Hans Zimmer, or even Thomas Newman and James Newton Howard, these guys, they all have these similar styles, and I can always tell when it's them. And like I know when Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are doing a film score.
Yeah, and the music's not bad by any means.
Right.
But it reminded me a lot of Fincher's other work.
Mm-hmm.
Other work that I enjoyed more. I like The Social Network more. I didn't think I would.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I ever watched that movie is because someone let me borrow it. I just had no desire to watch it. I was totally against it. Just watched it, and it was way better than I thought.
Yeah.
I'm glad I gave it a fair shot. And I actually liked the movie about the asshole making a website more than this suspense thriller. I thought it was far more exciting.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you think about Benjamin Button?
Complete piece of shit.
Thank God you think that. That's how I felt about it.
Benjamin Button, I can't even begin to explain everything I didn't like about it.
It's 9 hours too long.
At least.
I remember when I bought the ticket for that. They just so you know, you're going to be in the theater for over more than 3 hours. I'm like, that's fine. This is going to be great. I should have listened. I should not have bought that ticket. I hated Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Yeah.
I don't know why people liked that movie.
I don't understand why he was aging backwards. It didn't really. I understand like, oh, that's part of the story, whatever, but that wasn't the reason for a lot of the conflict in the story, and that affliction that he had didn't generate conflict either. There were so many points in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, just going by memory, I know like his father shows up and just gives him like this company and a shitload of money, and he gets this job that he loves doing, and then he goes off to war, finds himself on this boat without a life jacket, and nothing comes of that, and then he meets this woman and they have a wonderful life together, and this guy's life is better than the people who were aging ordinarily.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, why would you even do that if you're not going to make that a hardship for him?
Yeah.
That absolutely pissed me off.
There was one thing, if there's one bit of praise I can give about it, and it's just the way that it made me feel, but the ending when he becomes a baby, and it's Cate Blanchett there at the end, like holding the baby when it dies, that was kind of weird. Like, that made me feel weird.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it was ultimately what happens there at the end. But there was another great actress up that was nominated this year, Marion Cotillard, for 2 Days, One Night, which I haven't seen. Have you?
No, but it was explained to me that the movie is about she works, I guess, a blue-collar job, and she is going to be fired. So she has 2 days and 1 night to convince the rest of the workers to take a pay cut so they can afford to keep her.
That's cool.
Which is a very interesting concept.
Yeah, it is. That's I'm going to watch it now. That's a really good concept. That's why I watched John Wick, because that was another movie that it's Keanu Reeves in an action movie that people seem to really like, and I don't really know anything about it. And then when I saw it's about Keanu Reeves goes on a rampage because somebody steals his car and kills his puppy. And I'm like, I'm fucking watching this. Like, not his dog, his puppy.
Yeah.
Marion Cotillard, what's interesting about her, she was in another great film this year that nobody really talked about, is The Immigrant. Did you see that?
Yes.
That's a James Gray film.
Yep.
I
loved it.
I did too.
I thought it was great.
I think people should have been talking about that.
Yeah, and I think
more so than they did.
From what I understand, there was a falling out between the Weinsteins and the director.
That movie was shot a long time ago. Like it should have came out like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
from what I understand.
Basically, the reason why it got no recognition
was because of Harvey Weinstein.
Is because of politics, basically.
Right.
Because one guy didn't like another guy, so he's like, you know what? Well, I'm going to ruin your movie by not telling anyone about it.
Right.
But legitimately, that movie should be nominated for Best Actress.
Mm-hmm. Best Production Design.
Production Design. Cinematography.
That's the big one it should have been nominated for.
Cinematography, definitely, easily cinematography. You can probably even give it the win for cinematography because it looks so good.
Mm-hmm. I gotta watch that again.
Yeah, that's one of those movies too. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but
that movie's like a companion piece to Robert De Niro's story in The Godfather Part 2.
Almost.
Which I've always felt should have been its own movie too, called The Immigrant, but then I realized it's only like 70 minutes of screen time, I think, he gets in that story.
Yeah.
The Corleone story in The Godfather Part 2. That would have been an interesting movie all into itself.
One thing I loved about The Immigrant was the last shot of the movie.
Yeah.
And
it's a weird last shot.
I don't want
to... I don't want to
spoil it because it's...
We don't want to spoil that of everything.
Yeah.
Ruined everything but not the fucking last shot of The Immigrant.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
It's one of those points where it's a very creative and artistic shot, but it's the perfect last shot for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see the shot going, and then I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, please fade to black after this shot. Do not show me anything else. And they did it, and I was so happy.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of shooting, cinematography this year again to Emmanuel Lubezki, who I'm thrilled is winning Oscars, but not for the right movies, I don't think.
No, not at all.
Birdman, I wasn't with the cinematography just because it was one take, and not to put anything I couldn't do that right now. Probably if I could.
No,
that takes a lot of hard work, a lot of choreography to get something like that done. But just I don't want to say gimmick, but just that technique of the one steady shot. While it's awesome, I just don't. It wasn't as groundbreaking to me because it's been done before.
Yeah,
for so long since the invention of the fucking camera.
Yeah, it wasn't one shot. It just looked like one shot.
Yeah.
And there are movies that are actually one shot.
Russian Ark, which I think was a better film.
Birdman, I don't think... it had a great look. I want to say,
it is shot well.
Yeah,
but I just don't think that it's...
that's what I'm trying to say.
It's like Gravity. It was just like Gravity.
But here's the thing with Lubezki's last two movies, his two wins. He's done better work.
Yes.
And not saying that what he did, not saying what he did in Gravity or Birdman was unimpressive, because it definitely was. But for him to shoot something and then hand it off to a room full of guys with computers to put it all together to actually make it look how it's going to look, that doesn't play to his strength.
Yeah.
As a cinematographer, I think his work with Terrence Malick is far more impressive.
Right. What else has he done that?
Sleepy Hollow?
That's a good shot film.
Other than that, I have no idea. Y Tu Mamá También, I think.
Great Expectations, too, Alfonso Cuarón film. He did Ali. He shot The Cat in the Hat? Oh my god.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch that now.
He did the Lemony Snicket movie. He shot the cat in the head. I love that. Children of Men. He should have won an Oscar for that.
Yeah, that's another one of those movies that at the time it got absolutely no recognition. A little bit, but as the years went on, everybody's like, this movie is a masterpiece.
Classic. That was. I remember that year. It was. Alfonso Cuarón had Children of Men. Alejandro Inarritu had Babel, and Guillermo del Toro had Pan's Labyrinth. So it was like all these three Mexican directors with these great movies, and it was funny. Alfonso Cuarón won last year. Alejandro Inarritu won this year for Best Director. It'd be cool if Guillermo del Toro wins next year for whatever he has coming out.
I saw a trailer for a movie that he's doing.
Crimson Peak, is it?
Yeah.
And the trailer. I saw the poster.
It looks very good. Mm-hmm. Definitely want to see that. For cinematography, though, this year I would have given it to Ida.
Ida. I haven't seen that yet. It's on Netflix, though.
Yes.
Right? You can see it on Netflix.
That's one of those movies where you could pause the movie at any point in the 80-minute runtime, and you have a perfect desktop wallpaper background. It's shot and framed and just designed so well. It's just so perfect. It's one of the most impressive movies visually that I've seen in a long time. But not only that, it's great.
It's on the list.
It's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
Shot totally in black and white.
So it's like the Michael Haneke film, The White Ribbon. It's just reminding me of that black and white film. Foreign language, as they say. That is shot beautifully.
Roger Deakins got another nomination.
For Unbroken?
Yeah.
I'm surprised he hasn't won yet.
Yeah. I mean, he has as many Oscars as I do.
Yeah.
And something's wrong with that.
It's not,
one of us is going to win eventually. And he's doing a lot more work than me, so
far you guys are neck and neck.
Yeah, he's beating me in nominations by a lot.
I was upset that Interstellar did not get nominated for Best Cinematography. Hoyt van Hoytema, I think that's how you say his name. He is like my favorite DP that's working today. And Interstellar really was a magnificently shot film, even though it's very in vain to Kubrick. It owes a lot to him. But
I can't really say anything about the cinematography or the look of that movie because I only saw it in theaters, and theater projection quality is worse than Benjamin Button is a movie.
It's true.
I
saw it on a good IMAX screening.
So I would have to see it like on Blu-ray in order to accurately judge it, but...
Is that out yet on Blu-ray?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I don't think so. I don't think it is.
Yeah, I'm not so sure it is either.
Marv!
Yeah.
Marv!
Marv. That movie,
and around being an engineer.
Christopher Nolan in general doesn't really impress me with his shot choices. And I think that really hurts the look and the cinematography of his movies in a certain way. You could watch Birdman or Ida or Children of Men and be blown away by how the camera's used, but Christopher Nolan doesn't really think of creative ways to place the camera or move the camera. And that's, I don't know, that to me is kind of boring. But he does always work with excellent DPs.
Yeah.
And his movies always look great, even though
he surrounds himself with the best.
Yeah, and
the best of everything. He's only made one bad film, in my opinion, with The Prestige. That you're never going to convince me that's a good movie.
I'm not really a fan of that either. I watched it last year, actually, for probably the third time ever.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost unwatchable. I just could not get into it.
Right.
I still don't like The Dark Knight Rises either. I think that's his worst movie.
Dark Knight Rises, and I'm pretty hard on that film, but that might be one of the most disappointing pieces of film I ever saw. I remember coming out of The Dark Knight, and everybody was just like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, it's feeling great. And I remember coming out of The Dark Knight, like, what the hell is that? Like, I just didn't feel it.
It was an upsetting movie.
Mm-hmm. And it's got a lot of good things in it. I think Tom Hardy as Bane, like that to me alone was worth it.
Yeah, that was good casting. He really made a memorable character.
Not as serious as yours.
One thing that really is disappointing as well is so many movie villains today don't really do much except stand around and give speeches.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Bane was definitely a victim of that.
It's true, when they're fighting in the sewer, they're the best scene in the whole movie. He's just kind of talking at him, taunting him.
Interstellar, I actually like more than most Christopher Nolan movies. And I don't like most Christopher Nolan movies.
Right.
Interstellar I was really on board with that until halfway through when it turned into a Christopher Nolan movie.
Which, when they go into space, is that when it turns into a Christopher Nolan?
No,
or when they meet Michael Caine.
When they introduce a bad guy that the movie didn't really need or want.
Oh, with Matt Damon?
Yeah.
Oh, that whole sequence, that really took me out of it there. Neil deGrasse Tyson said that fly light years away to have a fist fight with a guy on another planet.
Exactly. And that did not need to be in that movie. In my opinion, it should have been man versus nature and man versus himself. We didn't need man versus man.
Yeah.
I think Nolan has a tendency to really play down to his audience at times by explaining things too much, or, in this example, assume that people might get bored if there wasn't a fist fight on another planet somewhere.
It's an overlong film, and you could have cut that whole sequence out. There's one moment I loved in that scene in the theater was when he's trying to dock the ship after it's all spinning out of control.
That was fun.
Again, it was one of those things where it's like the theory of everything, where if I see it kind of out of context, it gets a little silly, and there's this moment when Matt Damon says to him, he's like, "Cooper, it's not possible." Matthew McConaughey just goes, "No, it's necessary." It's just such a horrible line, but you're so caught up in it when you're watching it.
Yeah, that movie really overstays its welcome, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it does, I will say, however,
It's got a great soundtrack, though.
It has my favorite moment in a Christopher Nolan movie.
What is it?
And that's when Cooper, I'm trying to remember the context of the scene. I think they just got back from the planet where they age really fast. So they get back on the ship.
With the wave, because of how long they were actually on the planet for 7 minutes, but because of where the ship was.
Yeah, the gravitational pull or something to
the
that.
guy who was on the ship aged like 40 years.
Yeah, and he was just kind of walking around like, he just showed up, and it's like, he's standing there like Stephen Wright. It's like, oh, you guys are back. Okay. Like, he's totally unaffected by this.
He doesn't give a shit about them.
Then they wake up Matt Damon later, and he's like crying immediately. Like, what about the other guy? Like, Matt Damon's explaining, oh, you hope you never have to know what it's like to see another face after so long. He has a line, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I remember the other character being in the room at the same time. The guy sitting around studying gravity by himself for 20 years. This guy kind of knows what that's like, and he's just kind of sitting over there twiddling his thumbs like, no big deal.
Didn't, I don't know if it was Matt Damon who said it, where it was when he went to sleep in the pod, and the last time he didn't even set a wake-up time, he just let it go until somebody came and found him.
Yeah.
I think it was Matt Damon.
But my favorite scene in the movie was...
Marv!
when McConaughey comes back, and he's watching the video transmissions, and if I remember correctly, there was one or more with his son, or somebody, I can't remember that offhand, but I remember they really built up how the daughter was never going to send him one.
Mm-hmm.
and then she sends him one.
Well, don't they do it where it's the progression of the kid's aging, and it's the son as he's growing up, and then it's finally Casey Affleck?
Yeah.
And it's just the daughter's Jessica Chastain. You don't even see her as a kid.
I think you're right.
And that's how they did it.
She said something like, I was never going to send you one of these because whatever, I can't remember what her reason was, but that was unexpected, and that really worked.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kind of moments that I wish that movie had more of.
Mm-hmm.
But towards the end, it just got totally weird.
Ultimately, the way I feel about Interstellar is that Nolan watched 2001, and he just said, "Boy, I'm really struck by this scene when Floyd calls his daughter and talks to her on the phone. That's what inspired him to make that movie. Like that was what he latched onto of 2001."
Stanley Kubrick was such a good filmmaker that a movie from 1968 has iPads and Skype.
It does, yeah.
That's unbelievable.
A little bit ahead of its time.
Interstellar, we're not going to go 40 years in the future and look back on this movie in awe, I don't think.
No, I don't see it. I don't know if there's any Nolan film. Maybe Memento.
Memento, yeah, that's a movie that still holds up. Even though I think the movie kind of works against itself at times, where, I'll just say that Memento, for the most part, works. And that's a movie that you could go back to and enjoy. Although I did see it in chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
On one of the DVD special editions, they have like a cheat code that you have to put in to watch the movie in order. And to me, it was actually a better movie in order.
In chronological order?
Yeah.
I have to watch it then. I love that the one of the Fratellis from the Goonies is his buddy in that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
Me neither. It's very different from his others. Like it has the '90s feel to it. Memento.
Yeah.
Whereas this new stuff is just that it's all Star Wars.
Memento has, I think, the best idea for all of his movies, and the movie follows, the story follows that idea very well.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go off the rails how the Batman movies kind of do sometimes, or Interstellar did.
Mm-hmm.
I think Inception has a great idea too. Great concept for that movie.
Is Interstellar 4 was only up for it, right? Sound awards, score, production design. Is there anything else?
I don't know. It was
should have been up for best cinematography.
It was all technical awards. Nothing directing. Nothing acting.
I saw this great tweet from Anthony Cumia that said the Grand Budapest Hotel is sweeping all the who gives a shit categories. I thought like watching it there, it's winning everything. I'm like, oh fuck, Grand Budapest is going to sweep this.
Yeah, that won a lot more than I thought it would.
It's very deserving too of everyone. But J.K. Simmons took Best Supporting Actor this year, which is the category where they always give it to the most intense guy.
They give it to
offbeat and kind of villainous.
Yeah, they always give it to a villain.
They're always giving it to that recently. I'm surprised they didn't give it to Michael Fassbender last year.
Yeah, he was terrifying in 12 Years a Slave.
I thought that he was going to be something else in that movie. Like I thought he was just going to be like more like the way Leonardo DiCaprio was in Django Unchained. Maybe not as much of a cartoon, but that's kind of what I thought he was going to be, like this like intense kind of slaver. But he was not. But he was even better than I thought he was. Like what he ended up being in that movie. And Sarah Paulson, who played his wife, who I wish we saw more of her. Like she was another one. Like she was creepy in that movie. The way that like Amy Adams is in The Master.
Yeah.
Like she should have been recognized for that. Like they were. Like that is the creepiest couple I've seen on film in a long time. Probably Michael Fassbender and Sarah Paulson in 12 Years a Slave.
I can't think of anything that could beat them for that acclaim.
Yeah, weirdest movie, like frightening movie couples. That's a good exercise to come up with. Sarah Paulson and
Right.
Michael Fassbender in 12 Years a Slave. Think of more, please. Send in suggestions.
Definitely.
If you're out there listening. Robert Duvall is nominated for The Judge, which I haven't seen. I have no desire to see. Not that I'm anti-Robert Duvall or Robert Downey Jr. or anti the Judge. It just...
Robert Duvall almost has an unfair advantage.
Because he's Robert Duvall?
Yeah, for that reason, and because he's much older now, and I don't think I've ever seen like an elderly person that couldn't act very well. Once you reach like a certain age, you just become amazing at acting.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert Duvall is reaching that age, and he's Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
So yeah, he it's almost not fair. It's like he's doping for the Oscars.
You ever see him in The Great Santini?
No.
You gotta watch that. That's might be my favorite Robert Duvall thing ever. And this is the guy that's in how many great films? And Apocalypse Now, Godfathers. But The Great Santini, he plays like this really conservative, over-the-top army character. I think he's Army, maybe he's Air Force. He's a military guy, but he's just like this overbearing character on his family, and it's just out of control. And it's his best work, really.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, he needs to be in more movies.
What about
in recent times?
2014 movies that didn't get any Oscar recognition? It's like The Immigrant, but are definitely worth seeing.
Well, what do you think? What got Enemy? Another Jake Gyllenhaal movie.
That's the first one I was going to say. Yeah, that's a movie.
That movie really unsettled me.
Yeah, I watched that movie and I enjoyed it as much as you can enjoy a movie like that. But I enjoyed thinking about it afterwards more than I actually did enjoy watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it kind of makes me want to see it again.
There was when he has that dream about the movie, he watched that, and with that, it has like that tuba score. It's just like where he's dreaming the scene from the movie, and then the scene just kind of it's really, you hear nothing. You see the scene from the movie he watched. You hear just that tuba score, and then it just ends, and he wakes up. When he woke up, when I saw that, I'm like, there was something was not right there. They really unsettled me. I don't know what it was, but I feel the exact same way he did. What was it about what I just saw that freaked me out? And then when he goes back and watches it and finds it, it's because he's in the scene in the background as like the lobby boy.
Yeah.
There's another movie with a lobby boy. And that's what it was. And I noticed when I went back and looked at it too, at the end, he's there, and I didn't even really notice it. He's in the background there, and that's what unsettled me about that, I think. The movie looks like the movie A Single Man, too, that we were talking about earlier. That may be a good double feature, Single Man and Enemy.
I like the color palette in that movie a lot.
Yeah, I think it's the color palette that reminds me of it.
Yeah. It's a very strange movie.
Yeah. I watched that, with the double, the Jesse Eisenberg movie, I forget what the director's name is, but he made the movie Submarine.
It's essentially the same kind of story as Enemy.
Yeah. I don't know if it's with the source material. I think it's... I don't know if one adapted what the original book was based on, or...
I think the book that Enemy is based on is very different than the movie.
I never read any of the books. I just want to make sure that I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
I look them up. You see here.
Gyllenhaal had a great year, and I don't know how much
He's fucking End of Watch, Prisoners, Nightcrawler, Enemy.
I don't know how much...
forced to be reckoned with right now.
His agent...
Enemy was based on The Double by Jose Saramago, and I think The Double, the Jesse Eisenberg film, was based on a Dostoevsky story.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what it was.
I don't know how much Gyllenhaal's agent is making, but...
He should be the highest paid agent.
It's not enough.
And Jake Gyllenhaal is legitimately doing what people think Matthew McConaughey is doing.
Yeah. Although, I did like Mud. I did like Killer Joe.
I got this shirt and this pistol. Killer Joe is out of control. Freaking film.
How old is William Friedkin now, though?
He's getting up there.
He's got to be close to 80.
He made French Connection.
Yeah, 1971.
He made this movie. It's ridiculous. I don't know if you've seen it with Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones called The Hunted.
Yeah, I saw that in the theater.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Everybody needs to go and see that movie. It's a bizarre action movie.
Yeah,
I don't even know if it's any good or not, really.
I don't remember it being all that great. But
no, it's not. But
it's
when you think about it, it should be.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely a movie that should be good. It has everything going for it.
Yeah.
Who knows, like, just where that went wrong.
In terms of what else, Guardians of the Galaxy get nominated for any technical stuff. I loved that.
Visual effects,
Yeah.
but Interstellar won that.
I think the big one to get to. I mean, it was nominated for 2, but my all-time favorite movie, Inherent Vice, just did not get the recognition it deserved. That, in my opinion, is legitimately the greatest film ever made. It should have been nominated for every award, should have won all of them. And
Every award.
it was only nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, which it should have won, and Best Costume, which it should have won, but personal preference aside, Inherent Vice was
I couldn't really get
anything.
I couldn't get into that one the same way that I enjoy Boogie Nights or
No, it's very different.
There Will Be Blood. It's that one and The Master kind of have the similar thing going where I didn't really invest in what was happening, and it's really hard to explain why.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't.
But you got to go back and look at it again. Like,
yeah,
it's a rewarding film to go. It's the same with the reading, and that's just how the way Pynchon is. Like, you kind of, it's not you just read his work. It's like you read a sentence, you read a paragraph, and you realize a few pages later, I don't know what the hell I'm reading. I got to go back and really carefully do this and try to figure out what he's playing with here. That's just the kind of writer that he is. And then it's so rewarding to find out, like, at the end of these, like, complex paragraphs that he's just talking about something really simple and stupid, and that's kind of the joke. But Inherent Vice, when I saw it, I didn't think it was, the first time I saw it, I didn't think, this was not funny in the way that, like it was being described as being inspired by, like, Airplane and Cheech and Chong. You know, like, it wasn't funny in that way. It was funny in the way, like, I thought, this is really sad. Like, it was kind of like a pity funny.
Yeah.
But I've seen it so many times now, and it is just getting laugh out loud funnier every time I see it. There's a lot of nuances that Joaquin Phoenix is doing for that whole movie that
I think my biggest problem with the movie
is really funny.
I got so far into the movie, and I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, if I just stop watching this movie right now, if I just leave and go to bed...
You felt the same way about it that I did about Selma.
Like, what? The movie, it took a long time to really get to a point where if I stopped watching, there were questions that I wanted answered, if that makes any sense. So, for a majority of the movie, I could have cared less. Don't care. Same thing, in a way, with The Master. The character's journey, I just didn't really invest in. And it took a long time where, like, when things really started to get weird with, like, Philip Seymour Hoffman in that movie, that's kind of when I was like, yeah, I kind of want to know a little bit more about this. But at the start, I didn't. Yeah. And it feels very different from a lot of Anderson's older work, which is good that he's growing as a filmmaker. He's not doing the same thing. But I like what he used to do better.
Then is where he's going with these last 3 movies.
Yeah. The Master especially
I mean, There Will Be Blood, The Master, and Inherent Vice are so different from Hard Eight or Sidney's first film, Boogie Nights, and Magnolia. I mean, it is 3 completely different stages, but they're all, like, I could go on forever about how they're all, like, all of his movies, like, how they are really all the same, and what kind of, like, connects them all together. But yeah, I'm a major PTA fanboy, so I can't. I'm not even gonna. It should have won every Oscar, and it didn't, and it made me grumpy.
I don't like his movies as much as some other people do, like you.
Yeah.
But I will agree that he is one of the top directors working today.
He's the top director.
No question about it. I don't know who I could say would be number one in my view.
Him, in my view, and then I think in terms of working directors right now, God, Coen Brothers got to be up there.
Yeah,
alongside
they
him.
they have a
Scorsese.
big. Yeah, him too. He has a huge catalog of great films. It's almost impossible to compare him to somebody like Steve McQueen, who's just starting, essentially.
2014 films that got no attention that should have. Edge of Tomorrow. Where was that?
I don't know. I watched that, I think, the night before the Oscars, and it's still every bit as good as the first time I saw it. And it's one of those movies where...
The one thing that really keeps that movie from being that could be, in my opinion, this great action movie. It has the friggin' Groundhog Day plot, pretty much.
I actually like that, though. It's Groundhog Day meets Starship Troopers.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, nobody's really done that. So
Emily Blunt is so good and frightening in that movie.
Yeah.
She's badass. Like, she's what the... Like, if people want to talk about, like, strong women in film right now with Jennifer Lawrence in The Hunger Games. Like, no, Emily Blunt in Edge of Tomorrow.
And Looper.
Fucking, yeah, kicks her ass.
Edge of Tomorrow, when it came out, I heard the plot, and I'm like, sounds interesting, but I don't know.
I was turned off when they changed the title. All You Need Is Kill would have been a magnificent title for a film.
But they're not going to name a PG-13 movie, All You Need Is Kill. What kind of... You know, they're thinking, no parent is going to say, okay, Sonny, you could go see All You Need Is Kill,
right.
You know, but...
And they try to redeem themselves by, what is it, Live, Die, Repeat now? Which is better than Edge of Tomorrow as a title.
I'm probably the only person that disagrees with that.
Really?
Edge of Tomorrow is generic, but it works. Like, it makes sense. They could have picked something better, but it's one of those movies that everybody said it was great when it came out, and I just didn't believe it until I saw it for myself. Then I was the one saying, everybody has to see this movie. It really is that good.
Did you see any of the documentaries that were nominated this year?
I don't think I saw any of them.
Wim Wenders made one, Salt of the Earth. I don't know, I'll have to see that.
Usually I fall very behind on documentaries. No, I didn't even hear of any of these. Virunga, Salt of the Earth,
That's the Wim Wenders one.
I think most of these are on Netflix, actually. I recognize some of the titles, but I don't really know much about them.
Citizen 4 is the only one that I've really heard anything about, and I do want to see that. That's going to be on HBO, I think. And there's the Roger Ebert documentary, which I haven't seen either. I'd like to look at that.
Another category that this year, for some reason, I didn't see any of the films nominated, but usually I see most of them, was animated feature. I didn't see any of them. At the time of the awards, at the time of the Oscars, I watched How to Train Your Dragon 2 nights ago. And it was very good.
I haven't seen it. I only, to be honest, caught the first one in glimpses. I couldn't tell you anything about the first one either.
I like the first one probably more than the second. But I still say Lego Movies is better.
It has like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Lego Movie?
Yeah.
Wow.
People really like that.
It's a good... I saw that twice in the theaters, and then I rented the Blu-ray.
I didn't see any of them this year. I was just thinking today, there were nothing Pixar. Pixar didn't have a movie this year.
No, they have 2 coming in this year.
Yeah. Dinosaur and the Inside Out.
Yep. I didn't see Big Hero 6, but I guess it won because it's Disney.
It could very well be.
Or maybe it's just a good movie.
The Lego Movie not being in there, it just...
Disney is on kind of a resurgence with their non-Pixar films.
Non-Pixar, yeah. Frozen was one, right?
Frozen was a huge hit.
That's generated $1 billion. Everywhere I go, I see Frozen. The movie came out like 2 years ago now at this point, didn't it?
Yeah,
I still haven't seen that.
Frozen?
Yeah, I haven't seen Frozen.
I saw it.
That's been on the pile for so long.
It's definitely worth seeing. It takes like the old school formula that like the Disney princess formula, but it like does different things with it, which is kind of refreshing. Tangled was another one. That one wasn't as popular, but what's the video game one?
Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
I loved Wreck-It Ralph.
Me too.
I wished I had seen Wreck-It Ralph in like the theater.
Yeah, me too.
John C. Reilly is so. That is great voice acting in that movie. Like
that movie
the way
has
he talks.
the best casting for voice acting of any animated film I've ever seen.
Yeah, I really like the world that was created there. Even though I've seen people like, why would you attack the world building in Wreck-It Ralph? And yeah, maybe you can say there's dumb things about it, but
it's not a perfect movie, but it's, I would say, more good than bad. Definitely.
What was it? Fix It Felix was his buddy.
Yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph ruled.
Yep. Big Hero 6, I didn't really hear too much about that.
Yeah, I just heard about it. It's another one. I don't know what it's about, so maybe I'll have to watch it just to see if it is any good. If I know nothing about it, maybe I'll have the single man effect on it.
Yeah, that kind of flew under the radar a little bit. How to Train Your Dragon 2 also did. I remember when that came out, and nobody really said very much about it.
I don't even know what time of year it came out. Was that in the summer?
I believe so. I think,
yeah, it came out in June.
Yeah.
Jeez. I gotta watch those movies.
I'm curious to know why the Lego Movie was not nominated for animated feature.
The Lego Movie is kind of like another Selma. It was nominated for Best Song, but it wasn't nominated for the awards that people wanted to be nominated for.
Yeah. And who doesn't like the Lego Movie? I don't know anyone who saw that and was like, didn't care.
I wasn't I didn't care. I enjoyed it.
I was like, didn't care before I saw it. I thought making a movie about Legos was stupid.
I think that the actual act of building Legos was more fun than the movie.
I think that's probably about as good as you can make a movie about Legos, though. I can't think
It's true, for a movie about making Legos.
I can't think of too many more things that they could have done.
I like that somebody even thought that was a good idea.
I think that's from the team that did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
I didn't care much for those movies when I saw them.
I like the first one a lot.
Yeah?
Second one isn't quite as strong, but I mean that's, par for the course with sequels. Usually, not always, but yeah, I think they also did 21 Jump Street. Or am I wrong about that?
The same studio?
No, the same. I think it's a team of directors, 2 directors.
Oh. They might have. I don't know. I don't know who directed those movies.
Well, I'll look it up.
Just speaking of bad ideas, I'm seeing that right now they're talking about combining the Men in Black with the 21 Jump Street franchise. Count me out.
Yeah, the last Men in Black movie did not go over very well.
I like the last Men in Black movie.
21 Jump Street was Chris Miller and Phil Lord. They did Lego and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Those are all movies that nobody thought would be anything. And they all turned out to be loved. Way better than they should be.
Well, like you said, for a movie that was about Legos, it was the best thing. 2014 movies that didn't get any recognition, though. I gotta say it. Frank, the Michael Fassbender movie. Have you seen that yet?
Is that the one with the musician where he wears the head?
Yeah.
No, I saw it.
That's another.
It's in my queue, though.
That's up there with Boyhood and Inherent Vice to me. Like that is. I can't believe 3 movies like in 1 year that were that.
Did you see
on my all-time favorite list?
Did you see Under the Skin?
Yes, I did see Under the Skin. I didn't.
That's way too weird to get any recognition.
Yeah, that was never gonna. I don't know. Like, I like the idea of going out with where it was just them in a car picking random people off the street. Like that was interesting to me. But
I liked her discovery in the second half, like where she's learning more about herself. I thought some of the stuff with the car, some of the scenes were redundant. They kind of
like that's why I just when she kept bringing people into that black room, it was we've seen this. I need something else.
Yeah, and
Like she wasn't weird enough.
that's a movie that really takes its time and requires a lot of patience.
It does have a good ending.
Oh, the endings. One of my favorite endings of the year, definitely. I like this movie called Late Phases.
I watched that.
What do you think?
Tom Noonan rules.
Yeah.
But other than that, wasn't. It was actually I watched that right after John Wick, and they're companion pieces as well. It's about the character kind of seeking revenge on something that killed his dog.
Yeah, it's like Gran Torino with werewolves, basically.
Yeah,
But
I just
I thought it was great.
that main character was just a little too. I couldn't connect with him.
I kind of I can understand that, but I like that they kept his character consistent. Like he actually felt like a real person.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just feel like here's the guy that's in the movie and you're supposed to feel for him and such. But they just kind of like put this guy in the movie and said, here, he's going to go through all this stuff. And I thought it was great. And like The Immigrant, that's another movie where the last shot of the movie is just perfect for me.
Yeah, that was a good with a rifle. It was a good. Let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, but I thought the last Captain of America movie was really strong. It reminded me of like what Skyfall should have been. Like Captain America was a better James Bond movie than I think Skyfall and Quantum of Solace were.
I agree, but one thing that kind of bothered me about Captain America, even though it's way better than it had to be, it's a very entertaining movie. It really couldn't settle on a villain. And I think that's a problem with most of the Marvel movies.
Or with
Marvel Studios.
Like they want to set up a villain, but then they need this twist at the end where the villain isn't really who you thought it was. Same with The Dark Knight Rises. It's true with Captain America.
I would like to see a Marvel Studios film where it's like the cast of characters that they have to choose from is so strong and so vast. How could they not find a guy that could be like the T-1000 for their movie, where here's the guy that you have to defeat?
Mm-hmm.
It's in the Winter Soldier. That's easy for me to say. In the Winter Soldier, there's the Winter Soldier, and then there's this other guy, and then there's George St. Pierre, then there's this guy in a computer,
GSP.
And then there's this guy with scars on his face, and then there's somebody, and
it's the same with Iron Man 3. There's Guy Pearce, and there's Ben Kingsley, and there's who's the other guy? James Badge Dale. They pick a villain.
Yeah, that kind of turns me off a little bit because it's not necessary to do that. And would the Winter Soldier have been better with fewer villains? Probably. I think as an espionage movie, you need somebody who pretends to be good but then turns out to be bad. That's the kind of movie where that's suited. Iron Man 3, not so much, but I did like what they did with the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, even though most people didn't.
I've always stood by that you really shouldn't have more than one villain, and the latest Spider-Man movie that's abysmal.
Yeah. Well, it's okay to have more than one villain,
villains.
but you need to have somebody who is like the head of it all, like Hans Gruber and like all of his minions in Die Hard, where there's the guy who's trying to get revenge for his brother. Right? He works great as a villain, but he's still underneath Hans Gruber. Hans Gruber's the kingpin, and I don't think Winter Soldier had like a kingpin villain. It was too scattershot.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I could think of on what I thought was really good that didn't get much recognition. People really liked The Babadook. I didn't find that to be all that.
It's a well-made movie, but I thought the metaphor was a little too heavy-handed in that movie. It doesn't really...
It's an easy way of looking at The Shining.
It doesn't function too well outside of the metaphor. When I was watching that movie, that's all I could think of. I couldn't think of, why is this happening otherwise?
What do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean by the metaphor? In your opinion?
It's been a little while since I've seen it. If I can remember correctly, she's dealing with grief,
Mm-hmm.
and this creature is the personification of this grief,
Yeah.
and it comes to haunt her in different ways.
Yeah.
But that's the only reason it's there.
Yeah. It's like it's. I thought it was an easy way of reading The Shining, which took me years to figure out, and that it's kids are being tormented by the demons of their parents. That's ultimately what the Babadook is.
Yeah.
And The Shining is. But I was also falling asleep a lot during that movie, so I wonder if that had any
Probably.
effect on me. That was a interesting movie to try to stay awake during, because that's the same thing they're going through in that movie.
Yeah, you're right.
There's a great shot in that, though, when the mother is in bed and she hears the door open, and you see the point of view shot of the door opening, but the door's being opened in such a way where you're seeing the door being opened toward you, so you don't see who's opening it.
Yeah.
That's a really good shot. That's really eerie.
Babadook, I couldn't figure out what the reason for this torment that she's going through was,
Mm-hmm.
outside of like the actual metaphor.
Yeah.
I think maybe if there was some other reason for it, I don't want like an explanation, like, because the best horror doesn't have an explanation, but I wanted a little bit more.
I think the kid in that movie too could easily have been like an annoying kid character in recent films, but I didn't find him to be that.
I didn't have a
whatsoever.
problem either.
I don't even know why I thought that. But
Yeah, I think that's about it for me for 2014.
what do you? So overall, the Oscars, I think just the show is shitty, but the discussion of cinema that it brings is well worth the time.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the fact that it has to be a show. Like, it has to be a performance.
That's why I
I
tuned out anymore. I think I'm just going to kind of read about it.
I understand the reason why that they do it, to tell jokes and the singing and dancing and everything. It's to get the people watching who probably haven't seen a lot of these movies or probably aren't that familiar with it, probably don't care all that much. They just watch it because the Oscars is an event. Like the Super Bowl is an event. People watch just to watch. They don't care.
Everything needs their Super Bowl.
But I found this out today. This was the least watched Oscar ceremony since 2009 and the third lowest watch in history.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the first lowest watch? The first one?
Probably, I don't know. They didn't have TVs in the 20s, so.
Well, that's really.
I guess a lot of people just weren't all that interested. Maybe they're also upset about the fact that it has to be such a production and such a joke of itself. Or maybe they just didn't care about the movies. Because all of the movies nominated, I think the most popular for Best Picture might have been American Sniper. The one that most people have heard about.
Made a ton of money.
Yeah.
More so probably than all the other ones combined that got nominated for Best Picture.
Probably.
I mean, that made like Guardians of the Galaxy money.
What was it, 300 million or something? Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Well, reaching the end of our discussion here, is there anything for anyone that's listened along that you would recommend out there for them to look at this week?
My recommendation would be Ida, the Best Foreign Language winner. It's a short movie, 80 minutes long. It's available on Netflix instant streaming in the U.S., so it's easily accessed. Great movie. I think it deserves a lot more recognition than it gets. It's intelligently designed, and I think it is a very slow movie. Not a whole lot happens. Very introspective, I guess is a good word.
Cool.
But it's definitely worth seeing, if only for the visuals alone.
Well, I'm definitely going to look at it. It sounds like my Saturday night is planned. If I could recommend a movie, I'm going to recommend. So we're talking about James Gray and Joaquin Phoenix. I'm going to recommend his film Two Lovers. Actually, I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
It was the start of what. It was the last film Joaquin Phoenix made before he went on his rap career and then came back, and he's been sort of doing these line of really incredible movies. But I think Two Lovers was really the start of that. And he plays this character that's kind of torn between these two women, played by I think it's Vanessa Shaw and Gwyneth Paltrow. And he's kind of like got to choose between them. It's a very short movie, and it's very heartbreaking at the end. And that's what I'm going to recommend everybody look at. So, but that's all I have in terms of the 87th Academy Awards.
Yeah, I can't say very much more. It's like I said at the start, it was the Oscars for better or for worse.
Yeah, it really was.
The only other thing I could probably say is maybe since like viewership's declining, if this continues to be a trend, I think they're going to have to update the format of the show a little bit because it's been the same for decades.
It should be a 30-minute telecast. And if not, maybe it'll be like the Super Bowl and it'll just come to an end.